This last Saturday, I just finished the worst 50K race of my life. I had a really bad one about a year ago. Maybe this distance isn't for me, I don't know, but I had a really bad one last year. This one I just ran sets the new record for worst 50K, and a lot of it's my fault, and I wanted to walk through some perspective of this race and give you hopefully some ideas on what to do to avoid some of the mistakes I made and just have a better race experience. Ultras, I mean, even half marathons, like any sort of race, especially if you're trying to PR or you're just racing competitively, trying to give it your all, they're all brutal, right? I think the problem I had with this one is I didn't prepare. So this is my first point, and I'm going to walk you through the race and point out some of the mistakes and what I hope you do differently than I did, and I've definitely learned from. I'm not inexperienced with racing, and with that comes a little bit of ego. And I signed up for this 50K race because it's about 5 weeks out from a 100-mile race I'm doing soon. And I just saw it was trails in Page, Arizona, and I assumed what the terrain was like. I apparently missed wherever on the website or whatever email was sent. I didn't know it was 80% sand. Like, I was running through 80% of the mileage was sand. It was like if you go into a wash in a desert, that's what the sand was like. It was decently fine, and some was a little bit more packed than others, but the majority of it was through sand. Now, this was an amazing, I guess I should say the race name, it was the Antelope Canyon 50K, and I've heard it's amazing area, and if you want an adventure, this is a race that is an adventure. You climb ladders out of slot canyons, you climb up and down stairs. At one point we were just straight on rock face, and you have to use rope to kind of lower yourself down as you walk slanted and sideways. So fun race. For me, as someone who wants to race hard, and as someone who's trained on like trails that are packed in and like dirt that you can kind of push on a little bit more, as someone who's experienced with that and wants to race that, this was not the race for me. And that was my bad for not doing my research. So the first point is I hope you learn that you should really look into races, especially if you're trying to do your best. The other part of this is I didn't visit the terrain or the course. It's 2.5 hours away from me, and I definitely could have picked a weekend or even just a Saturday to do a 20-mile long run or get familiar with the course. And I've typically done that in the past. I just didn't with this race. I got a little cocky and was like, oh, I know it's trails. I live close to the area. I've ran in Arizona. I know what it's like. Obvious mistake, and it definitely slowed me down. So the first about 17 miles, 15 miles were all sand pretty much in slot canyons, which again were really cool. It was just not the race I want to invest my time and money into. That's my fault. I'm taking responsibility for that. But the first half was all sand, and then finally I hit some like dirt trail, and I was able to hammer and I started passing people. And I didn't know what place I was in because part of the issue with this race, not that it's a bad race, it's just I wasn't prepared for, is they start the 50K, the 70K, and the 50-mile race all at the same time. So everyone around me, I had no idea if I was racing against them, if they were in the 70K or 50-miler, so I was having a hard time judging my competition, which if you're going to run your own race, it shouldn't matter. And I try to run my own race as best as possible, but with that comes competing because I want to compete and I want to place and I want to win. And so I didn't know where I was at. And so I got to the second to last aid station. I asked someone there, like, hey, how many people have come through? He said roughly 10, but he didn't know if they were 50K racers or 50-miler or 70K racers. And so I just started hammering because I was like, I'm at least in the top 10. Maybe I could do some damage. I ran into a lady that was kind of guiding people down this rock face, and then I asked her, she said I was the seventh person to come through. And then I ran into another lady about half a mile away, and she said I was the ninth person to come through. So I really didn't know what place I was in. I was just happy I was probably roughly in top 10. But at this point, I was like, my mindset was back. Like, I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I was able to hammer a little bit more. I knew I was doing well in my race. And then I get to I texted my mom because I had a little bit of service. I said, do you know what place I'm in? She found out I was 4th in the men's race, 5th overall. And so I was like, I can podium the men's race if I catch one more person. And so I'm really working. I'm really putting in effort. I'm ignoring my stomach issues and that I can't breathe very well. I think I need to train elevation a little bit more. But I think I'm pushing it. And then I catch another person, which was awesome. And then here's what happens next is I get to the last aid station. I ask a lady to fill up my water bottle and put some carb mix I had while I went to the bathroom. I came out and asked, where should I go? And they said, just past that thing. And I'm facing away from them, so I kind of point in the direction I'm facing. And I hear them say yes. So I start running. I end up in this town, like maybe a quarter mile down. And I'm like, this is definitely not the trail I'm supposed to be on. I called my mom. It looked like to her on her map that I was on track. I ran back up and I asked someone else, this guy, and he said, oh yeah, you continue the race this way, which was in the complete opposite direction of what I had ran. And this gets me to my second point that I hope you'll learn from, is as best you can get very familiar with the course, whether it's studying the map or actually visiting it or talking to people about it, because I was uncertain about where to go and it probably cost me about 10 minutes, if not more. And so once I realized where I was supposed to be heading, these people I had passed had caught up to me. So I started working to get past them, which I did. But with the last 2 miles to go, someone caught me. And so it ended up putting me at 6th overall, and I wasn't able to catch 3rd place in the men's race. So as frustrating as this was, again, taking responsibility, it was my fault for not knowing the course and not knowing which direction to head after every aid station, because the course was marked pretty decent, but at aid stations sometimes you're in this open area and different trails lead off from it, and I just went into the wrong direction. That's my fault. As much as I want to get mad at those ladies for misleading me, at least from my perspective, if I would have been familiar with the course, that wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have mattered. I would have been confident in the direction I was heading in and not wasting time. So, I mean, 6th overall at a race like this is pretty good. I ran, I should remember this, like 6 hours and 10 minutes or 20 minutes, something like that, on a very, extremely difficult course. So, I am proud of that because I found a way to push past my problems and still give my best, considering the circumstances of being unprepared. And I've learned from this that I need to really research the races before I pay for entry, because I don't want to put my money into races like that, at least right now. Maybe my perspective will change later, but I'm trying to run fast on trails, and when you're in sand, at least for what I'm trained for, I was not very fast in my opinion, at least compared to being on dirt roads. Or if I knew what I was getting myself into, I could have trained running on sand more. So, I mean, the big things are really knowing what type of course you're running if you're trying to compete and give your best, or just knowing in general what to expect. It'll help you mentally, because once I realized it was like 80% sand, I was pretty beat up, and it's really hard to come back from that. For me, I'm trying to work on that mindset. And then the second thing, being familiar with where you're supposed to head and the directions of where you're going along the course and where do you head out of aid stations, so you don't have to rely on other people. I think those are two things you can learn from me and my mistakes. And then also, the last thing I was just going to say is, as I was driving to the race, there was a lot of things I was disappointed in my training block, and I try and stay positive, but there were some things I was like, okay, I should have changed that. I should have done that differently. And so the mindset I had was, regardless of what I'm capable of and regardless of what I'm able to do, at least fight. Fight. Even if that means fighting to through the sand, or trying to get in the top half of racers, or fighting for podium, fighting for a PR, whatever it is. I wanted to go in there with the perspective to fight regardless of what was going to happen. And I'm glad I had that thought the night before my race, because I definitely had to fight some battles compared to being very familiar with the course or having experience on it or just feeling my best. So still proud of it, but there's always things, I shouldn't say but, still proud of it, and there's things to always learn from these things, and hopefully you can learn something from this. And maybe hopefully you can podium your race next time, because I was so mad. I was like this close. I was super close. I wasn't even that far behind the 3rd place men, but just getting lost definitely took it from me, so that's okay. If you like running content, that's what this channel is about. My name's Reese. I'm trying to help people learn from my mistakes, as obvious with this video. A couple mistakes there. And I'm ultimately trying to help people deepen their relationship with running, get more familiar, get comfortable, avoid injuries, because running's quite literally saved my life, and if I can say something or give you a few pointers that helps you deepen your relationship, that's all I could ask for. So I appreciate your time, and if you like this kind of stuff, consider subscribing, and if not, I still hope you got something out of this video. and I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.